The old station floated in dead space, silent and dark. Commander watched it through the viewing window of his salvaged ship. The station was covered in ice and dust from 300 years of abandonment. Strange symbols marked its hull, symbols that looked almost familiar but belonged to no known language in the galaxy. "Should we go closer?" asked from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. She had been flying salvage missions with for 5 years now, and she knew when something felt wrong. Nodded slowly. "Yes, but carefully scan that station. I want to know what we're dealing with." Their engineer pulled up the scanning screens. His eyes widened as data filled the displays. "Commander, this is impossible. The materials used in that station's construction. They don't match anything in our databases. And the design is old, very old." "How old?" asked. "Maybe 300 years, maybe more." Felt a chill run down his spine. 300 years ago was the time of the Great Silence, a period in galactic history that nobody liked to talk about. Records from that time were incomplete, damaged, or simply missing. The Collective, the alliance of 5 major alien species that ruled the galaxy, claimed it was just a data loss from old computer systems, but had always suspected there was more to the story. "Let's dock," he said. "I want to see what's inside." Brought their ship alongside the ancient station. The docking clamps engaged with a hollow clang that echoed through their hull. Checked the atmosphere readings. "No air inside. We'll need suits." They put on their environment suits and cycled through the airlock. The station's interior was freezing cold and pitch black. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that had not seen life in centuries. Everything was covered in frost. Led the way down a main corridor. The walls were lined with panels covered in those strange symbols. He stopped at one panel and wiped away the frost. Underneath, he could see markings that looked like pictures. A blue planet, a yellow star, strange creatures with 2 arms and 2 legs standing upright. "What is that?" whispered. "I don't know," said, but something in his mind was stirring. Old stories. Tales his grandmother had told him when he was a child. Stories about the Star Warriors, beings from a lost world who could fight like demons and build wonders beyond imagination. But those were just stories. Everyone knew that. They moved deeper into the station. In what looked like a command center, they found more of those symbols, and then made a discovery that changed everything. Behind a sealed door, they found a room filled with weapons. Not the energy weapons used by the Collective, but strange metal devices that looked primitive yet elegant. "These are kinetic weapons," said, examining one carefully. "They fire solid projectiles. Nobody has used weapons like this in over 1,000 years." Picked up one of the weapons. It felt heavy, solid, and somehow right in his hands. On its side, he found more of those strange symbols, and below them, in letters he could barely read, words in the old trade language. Words that made his blood run cold. "Property of Earth Defense Force." Earth breathed, but Earth is a myth. The Terrans never existed. Everyone knows that. "Then explain these weapons," said quietly. "Explain this station. Explain why the Collective has forbidden all travel to this sector of space." Was about to respond when his communicator crackled to life. An automated message, repeating over and over in multiple languages. It took him a moment to realize one of the languages was the old trade tongue. "Warning, warning, hostile force detected. All stations prepare for defensive measures. This is not a drill. The swarm has returned." The swarm asked, "What's that supposed to mean?" Her question was answered by a flash of light outside the station windows. Through the darkness of space, they could see something moving. Thousands of shapes, all moving together like a massive school of fish. But these were ships. Alien ships unlike anything in the Collective databases. And they were heading toward the nearest inhabited system. His communicator came alive again, but this time it was a live signal from the Collective emergency network. All ships, all stations, priority alert. Unknown hostile force has entered Sector 9. Collective defense fleet is engaging. Casualties are massive. Repeat, casualties are massive. All available ships are ordered to evacuate civilian populations. Commander said, his voice shaking. Those ships, they're destroying everything. The collective fleet can't stop them. Watched in horror as the distant battle unfolded. Collective warships, vessels that had kept peace in the galaxy for generations, were being torn apart by the strange alien ships. It was a massacre. We need to leave, said, now before they see us. But wasn't listening. He was looking at the command console in the ancient station. Something was blinking there, a light that had just come on, as if the station itself had awakened in response to the attack. He moved to the console and wiped away the frost. More of those strange symbols appeared, but these were different. These were moving, forming patterns. And then, suddenly, a voice spoke. It came from the station's speakers, speaking in perfect galactic standard, the common language used across the collective. Emergency protocols activated. Hostile force detected. Initiating final directive. Who are you? Asked. I am Atlas. I am the last guardian of human knowledge. I have been waiting for 300 years for someone to find this station, and now you have come at the perfect time, or perhaps the worst time. Human knowledge, said, humans aren't real, they're legends, stories we tell children. Is that what they teach you now? The AI's voice sounded almost sad. That we never existed, that Earth was just a myth. They did their work well then. They erased us from history after they tried to erase us from existence. What are you talking about? Demanded. The collective, Atlas said. 300 years ago they found Earth, they found humanity, and they decided we were too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They tried to destroy us. They burned our worlds and killed billions, but some of us escaped. Some of us survived. Where? Asked. Where did they go? Beyond the edge of known space, to hidden worlds where the collective could not follow, and there they rebuilt, they waited, and they prepared. Looked at the weapons around him, at the ancient station, at the symbols that spoke of a lost people. Can you contact them? Can you reach these humans? I can send a signal, but I cannot guarantee they will come. They have no reason to love the collective, no reason to save the species that tried to exterminate them. Outside, more collective ships died in the darkness. Whole worlds were about to fall to this new enemy, this swarm. Made his decision. Send the signal, he said. Tell them the galaxy needs them. Tell them we're asking for help. And if they refuse, then we're all dead anyway. Atlas was silent for a moment. Then the console lit up with light. Signal sent, coordinates transmitted. If they are listening, they will hear. And Commander, if they do come, everything you know about the galaxy is about to change. Watched as the signal disappeared into the void, carrying a message to a people who were supposed to be extinct. A prayer sent to legends. He just hoped the legends would answer. The wait was terrible, and his crew remained at the ancient station for 6 hours after Atlas sent the signal. Outside, the battle in nearby space had ended. The swarm had won. An entire collective fleet gone. 3 planets in the system, stripped of all life. The communications networks were flooded with panic and confusion. We should leave, said for the 10th time. Commander, we should report this to collective command. Let them deal with it. Report what? Asked. That we found proof humans are real, that we contacted them. They'll either think we're crazy or they'll arrest us for violating the forbidden zone. Looked up from his scanning equipment. The swarm ships are moving away from this sector. They're heading toward the core systems, toward the collective capital. How long until they arrive? At their current speed, maybe 5 days, maybe less. 5 days until the heart of galactic civilization came under attack. 5 days until billions more died. Looked at the console where Atlas waited silently. The AI had said nothing since sending the signal. Atlas said, "Are they coming?" "Unknown. The signal will take time to reach human space, and even if they receive it, they must decide whether to answer." "How can they not answer?" demanded. "Billions are dying." "The collective tried to make humanity extinct," Atlas replied. "Every human alive today is descended from refugees who fled the burning of Earth. They watched their home world die from space. They have carried that wound for 300 years. Would you rush to save those who tried to kill you?" The question hung in the cold air of the ancient station. None of them had an answer. Then, without warning, space tore open. It happened so fast that barely had time to shout a warning. A massive rift appeared in the void, bleeding light and energy. And through that rift came ships, dozens of them, hundreds of them, warships, each one larger than anything in the collective fleet. Their hulls were dark metal, marked with symbols that matched those on the station walls. Its communicator exploded with alarm signals. Their ship's computers were screaming warnings about unknown vessels, weapon locks, targeting systems. "This is Captain of the Terran Defense Fleet," a voice said over the communication channel. The voice was calm, measured, speaking perfect galactic standard. "Unknown salvage vessel, you are in restricted human space. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in your immediate destruction." "We don't have weapons," said quickly, his hands moving to broadcast their status. "We're just a salvage crew. We found this station. We sent the signal." There was a pause, then the voice spoke again. "You activated Atlas." "Yes," said. "We found the station while escaping the swarm attack. Atlas told us about humanity, about what happened 300 years ago. We sent a signal because the galaxy is dying. The swarm is destroying everything." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Stand by for transport." Before any of them could respond, light filled the station. Felt a strange tingling sensation wash over his body. The world seemed to stretch and bend. And then, suddenly, they were somewhere else. They stood in a large chamber filled with people. Humans. Real humans, not myths or legends, but living, breathing people. They wore uniforms of dark blue with silver trim. Armed soldiers surrounded and his crew, weapons ready but not pointed at them. Yet. At the center of the chamber stood a man in a captain's uniform. He was tall, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. This was Captain. "I am commander of the salvage vessel Silver Wing," said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is my crew and we mean no harm." "You activated a human beacon," said. "You sent a signal into human space using old military codes. That alone should have gotten you killed. But you also mentioned a swarm. Explain." Explained everything. The ancient station, the mysterious ships, the destruction of the collective fleet, the billions dead, the panic spreading across the galaxy. As he spoke, he watched face. The captain's expression never changed, but his eyes grew colder. When finished, turned to one of his officers. "Verify his story. Pull all available data from collective networks." "Already done, sir," the officer replied. "He's telling the truth. The collective is under attack by an unknown force. They're calling it the swarm. Casualties are in the billions and rising. The collective defense fleet is in full retreat." "Good," said quietly. "Good?" asked shocked. "Billions are dead and you say good?" Looked at her and his eyes were like ice. "The collective tried to exterminate humanity. They burned Earth. They killed 10 billion people. Men, women, children, everyone. And the 5 species that make up the collective, they all voted for it. They all agreed that humanity was too dangerous to exist. So yes, part of me says good. Part of me wants to watch them burn." "But you came," said quietly. "You heard the signal and you came." "I didn't come to help," said. "I came to verify the threat, to see if this swarm might find human space, to protect my people." "Then you'll let the galaxy die?" asked. Before could answer, a new voice spoke. That decision is not yours alone to make, Captain." Everyone turned. An older woman entered the chamber. She wore an admiral's uniform, and her presence commanded instant respect. Her hair was silver with age, and her face carried the weight of years. "Admiral," said, standing at attention. "At ease, Captain." Admiral looked at and his crew with piercing eyes. "I am Admiral, Commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have stirred up quite a situation, Commander. The human government is in emergency session right now. Half want to ignore the collective's problems. The other half want to use this as an opportunity to reclaim our place in the galaxy." "And what do you want?" asked. "I want many things," said. "I want Earth back. I want justice for my people. I want the collective to acknowledge what they did. But I also remember what it means to be human. We do not stand by and watch genocide, even when the victims are those who wronged us." A young lieutenant approached Admiral and whispered something in her ear. The Admiral nodded. "Commander," she said, "I am told you are, is this correct?" "Yes, Admiral. My species joined the collective 200 years ago." "Do you know what happened to the who voted against humanity's extermination?" Hesitated. "The records say they were removed from the council for being traitors." "Removed," repeated. Such a gentle word. "The collective killed them. They destroyed 2 colony worlds as punishment. 3 billion of your people died because they tried to save mine." Gasped. "That's not in any history book." "Of course not," said. "The collective erases anything that makes them look bad, but humanity remembers. We remember every species that tried to help us, and we remember every species that called for our death." She walked closer to. "I am going to make you an offer, Commander. You will take a message back to the collective. You will tell them that humanity lives, that we remember everything, and that we are coming." "Coming to help?" asked hopefully. "Coming," said. "Whether to help or to finish what the collective started 300 years ago, that depends on what we find when we arrive." She gestured to one of her officers. "Lieutenant will escort you to quarters. You will remain here as our guests until the fleet is ready to move. Is this acceptable?" Knew it wasn't really a question. They were prisoners, politely treated but prisoners nonetheless. "Yes, Admiral." As Lieutenant led them away, heard speaking quietly to Admiral. "Are we really doing this, going back?" "We are," replied. 300 years in exile ends today. For better or worse, humanity is returning to the galaxy. And this time we will make sure everyone knows we are not myths. We are not legends. We are very, very real." Behind them, through the windows of the massive ship, could see the human fleet assembling. Hundreds of warships, all preparing for war. The legends were coming back, and the galaxy would never be the same. The quarters they were given were small but comfortable. Sat on the edge of his bed, trying to process everything that had happened. Humans were real. They were alive. And they had been hiding beyond the edge of known space for 300 years, building a military force that made the collective fleet look primitive. Lieutenant stood guard outside their door. She was young, maybe 25 standard years, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Whenever looked through the door window, she was there, watching. After 2 hours, knocked on's door. "Commander, can we talk?" "Come in." Entered, looking troubled. "I've been accessing the ship's database. They gave us limited access, but I found something. Information about the war 300 years ago, about what really happened." "Show me." Pulled up his data pad. On the screen saw images of Earth, a beautiful blue and green planet full of life. Then he saw images of that same planet burning. Massive weapons fired from space, turning cities into glass, boiling oceans, poisoning the atmosphere. The before and after images made him feel sick. 10 billion humans lived on Earth, said quietly. The collective fleet arrived without warning. They didn't even try to negotiate. They just started firing. The humans had some ships in orbit, but not enough. They managed to evacuate maybe 100 million people on colony ships before Earth fell, Everyone else died. Why asked, why would the collective do this? According to these records, the collective was afraid. Humanity had only been in space for 200 years, but they were advancing faster than any species in recorded history. Their weapons were creative and deadly. Their soldiers were unstoppable. The collective council decided that if they waited, humanity would eventually dominate the galaxy. So they chose to strike first. But humans weren't trying to conquer anyone. No, they were just exploring, making friends, trading. But the collective saw a threat where there wasn't one, and my people, we tried to stop it. 3 of our council members voted against the extermination. They were executed. 2 of our colony worlds were destroyed as punishment. 3 billion died because we tried to be decent. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the human fleet growing larger as more ships arrived. They hate us. The collective, said they remember everything. Can you blame them? Asked. We killed their world. I wasn't even born yet, neither were you. But we're part of the collective. We benefit from what they built, and what they built was founded on genocide. Before could respond, the door opened. Lieutenant stepped inside. Admiral wants to see you, all 3 of you, now. They were escorted to a large conference room. Admiral stood at the head of a long table, studying holographic displays of the swarm's movements. Captain was there, along with several other officers. One of them, a woman with tactical insignia, was introduced as Commander. Commander, said without preamble, we have been monitoring the swarm's progress. They have destroyed 17 collective systems in the past 3 days. Casualties are now estimated at 50 billion and rising. The collective fleet is in complete disarray. What about the capital? Asked. Is it safe? For now, but the swarm will reach it in 2 days. When that happens, the collective will fall, and then the swarm will spread across the entire galaxy, consuming everything. You have to help them, said. I know they wronged you. I know you have every reason to let them die. But if the collective falls, what happens to human space? What happens when the swarm finds your hidden worlds? Smiled slightly. You're clever, Commander. Yes, that is exactly our concern. The swarm is not our enemy by choice, but they are our enemy by necessity. We must stop them, or eventually they will come for us too. So you'll help. We will fight, corrected, but on our terms, Captain. Activated a display showing the collective capital system. We have analyzed the swarm's tactics. They're actually quite simple. They overwhelm with numbers. Their individual ships are weak, but they attack in massive waves. The collective fleet uses energy shields and directed energy weapons. These are effective against other collective ships, but inefficient against the swarm. Why? Asked. Commander spoke up. Because energy shields are designed to deflect high-energy particles. The swarm uses kinetic projectiles and biological weapons. They fly through shields like they're not even there. And collective energy weapons need time to recharge between shots. Against a swarm of thousands, you can't kill them fast enough. But you can, said, understanding. Your weapons are kinetic too, and they don't need to recharge. Correct, said. Human military doctrine was developed 300 years ago based on resource efficiency. Kinetic weapons are cheap to manufacture and deadly. Our ships carry thousands of missiles. Our guns can fire continuously. And we've had 3 centuries to perfect these weapons while the collective grew soft with their fancy energy shields. So you can win. We can hurt them, said. But there's a problem. We've been analyzing the swarm's behavior. They're not random, they're coordinated, which means somewhere there's a central intelligence controlling them, a hive mind. If we can find it, continued, we can kill it. And without coordination, the swarm ships become just mindless animals, easy to destroy. Do you know where this hive mind is? Asked. We have theories, said. The swarm came from dark space beyond the galactic rim. We believe the hive mind is still there in their home system. If we can reach it, we can end this war with one strike. That sounds too easy, said. Oh, it won't be easy, said grimly. The hive mind will be protected by millions of swarm ships. Getting there will cost us dearly, but it's our best chance. She turned to face directly. Here's what's going to happen. The human fleet will jump to the collective capital. We will defend it against the swarm. We will save the collective, not because we forgive them, but because we need them alive to fight alongside us. And you, Commander, will deliver a message to the collective council. What message? That humanity lives, that we remember everything, that we are saving them despite what they did to us, and that after this war is over, we will discuss terms for a new relationship, one built on equality and respect, not on the collective's attempt at genocide. They may not accept. Then we will let the swarm finish what we started, said coldly. The collective must choose, accept humanity as equals or die as enemies. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship, checked her displays, and her face went pale. Admiral, we have a problem. The swarm just changed course. They're not heading to the collective capital anymore. Where are they going? Here, they're coming straight for human space. The room went silent, then spoke. How did they find us? We've been hidden for 300 years. The signal, said, his voice shaking. Atlas sent a signal into human space. What if the swarm intercepted it? What if they tracked it back to its source? His eyes widened. How long until they arrive? Worked her console frantically. 36 hours, maybe less. Admiral, they're bringing their main force, everything they have, if they hit our hidden colonies. Our families, whispered from her position by the door. My parents are on New Terra, my little brother. His face hardened. All ships battle stations. Recall all fleet elements. We defend human space. Nothing gets through. Admiral said, the collective capital is still under threat. If you stay here, they'll die. Yes, said simply, they will, but I will not abandon my people to save those who tried to exterminate us. Send us, said suddenly. Admiral, send my ship to the collective capital. A small force can still help. We can buy them time. Against the entire swarm, you'll die. Maybe, but it's better than doing nothing. Studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Take the Indomitable and 5 other ships. Do what you can. The rest of the fleet stays here. She turned to, you'll go with Captain. When you reach the collective capital, deliver my message. Tell them humanity is under attack. Tell them we split our forces to save them. Tell them they owe us a debt that can never be repaid. And tell them that if they want to survive this war, they need to accept us as equals. Is that clear? Yes, Admiral. Good, now go, all of you. Captain, you have 1 hour to depart. Use it well. As they hurried from the conference room, looked back at Admiral. She stood alone, staring at displays showing both threats. The swarm coming for her people and the swarm coming for the collective. She had to choose which to save. And she had chosen her own people, just as anyone would. Just as the collective had, 300 years ago. The cycle continued. The Indomitable jumped through space faster than anything had ever experienced. Human FTL technology was different from collective drives. Faster, more aggressive. The ship shuddered and groaned with each jump, but it covered in hours what would have taken collective ships days. Captain stood on the bridge, calm and focused. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency. Commander coordinated tactical displays, monitored communications. Other officers whose names hadn't learned yet managed weapons, navigation, and defensive systems. Captain said, we're receiving distress calls from the collective capital. The swarm has arrived. They're requesting immediate assistance from any available ships. How many swarm vessels? Thousands. The remaining collective fleet is trying to hold them back, but they're losing, fast. Study the tactical display. Time to arrival. 20 minutes at maximum FTL. When we drop out, I want full weapons hot. All missile tubes loaded. Every gun ready to fire. We hit them hard and we hit them fast. Sir, one of the officers said hesitantly, we're 6 ships against thousands. We can't win this fight. No, agreed. But we can buy time, we can save lives, and sometimes that's enough. Watched from the side of the bridge where he'd been told to stay out of the way, he had seen collective military operations before, smooth and professional. But this was different. These humans moved with a kind of controlled violence. They weren't going into battle. They were going to war. Stood beside him, gripping the railing tightly. We're going to die, aren't we? Probably, said honestly, but at least we'll die trying to do the right thing. That's not as comforting as you think it is. Joined them, looking pale but determined. I've been working with the human engineers. Their weapons systems are incredible. Did you know they can fire 100 missiles in 10 seconds? And each missile has its own guidance system and can track independent targets. I didn't know that, said. The collective has nothing like it. We've been building fancy energy weapons while they perfected the art of just throwing lots of metal at the enemy very, very fast. Dropping out of FTL in 5 seconds, the navigator called out. All hands battle stations, announced over the ship-wide comm. Remember your training, remember what we're fighting for, and remember that humanity does not run from a fight. Space twisted, reality bent, and then they were there. The collective capital system was burning. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun, and all of them were under attack. Swarm ships filled the void like a plague of insects. They were biological in appearance, like someone had grown ships instead of building them. Each one pulsed with sickly green light. The collective fleet was in tatters. Maybe 50 ships remained from what had once been 500. They were fighting desperately, but their energy weapons weren't enough. For every swarm ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. My God, whispered. Target the swarm cluster attacking the collective flagship, ordered. Fire all weapons. The Indomitable opened fire. Missiles streaked from launch tubes by the hundreds. Kinetic cannons roared, spitting out streams of metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The other 5 human ships did the same, and the effect was devastating. Swarm ships exploded by the dozens, hundreds. The biological vessels couldn't withstand the sheer volume of fire, where collective energy weapons had to carefully aim and fire one at a time. Human weapons just filled space with death. It didn't matter if individual shots missed. There were always more shots coming. Collective flagship is hailing us, reported. Put them through. A holographic image appeared on the bridge. It showed one of the species that made up the collective. He wore an admiral's uniform and looked exhausted. Unknown vessels, this is Admiral of the Collective Defense Fleet. Identify yourselves. This is Captain of the Terran Defense Fleet, said calmly. We're here to help. His face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, disbelief, horror. Terran, that's impossible. Humans are extinct. Clearly not. Now I suggest you stop wasting time on impossible questions and start coordinating with us. We have maybe 10 minutes before the swarm reorganizes. Let's use it well. To his credit, recovered quickly. Agreed. What do you need? Pull your remaining ships into a defensive sphere around the inhabited planets. We'll provide covering fire and try to thin out the swarm numbers. Do you have any civilian evacuation ships? Some, but not nearly enough. Then protect what you have. Keep those civilians alive. For the next 8 hours, the battle raged. The 6 human ships danced through space, their weapons never stopping. They would appear, unleash devastating barrages, then jump away before the swarm could concentrate their forces. The collective fleet, inspired by the humans' arrival, fought with renewed determination. Major, the commander of the human marines aboard the Indomitable, led boarding actions against swarm vessels that got too close. His soldiers wore powered armor and carried weapons that could tear through biological hulls. watched through the tactical displays as human troops fought through swarm ships, destroying them from within. But it wasn't enough. For every swarm ship they destroyed, more arrived. The humans were incredible fighters, but they were only 6 ships against an endless tide. Captain said urgently, "I've been analyzing the swarm's attack patterns. They're not trying to destroy the planets. They're hurting us." Hurting us where? Toward the outer system, away from the FTL jump points. I think they're trying to trap us. Swore they're smarter than we thought. If they cut off our escape routes, they can wear us down slowly. There's something else, said. He had been working at one of the spare consoles analyzing swarm data. I found a pattern in their communications. There's a specific signal coming from the center of their formation. I think it's coordinating them, maybe even controlling them directly. The hive mind. Maybe, or at least a relay, if we could destroy it. The swarm would lose coordination, finished. They'd become disorganized, easy targets. Studied the tactical display. The relay was in the center of the swarm formation, protected by thousands of ships. Getting to it would be suicide. His ship might make it through, but they'd never make it back out. Admiral said, opening a channel. We've identified a priority target, a command vessel controlling the swarm's movements. We're going to destroy it, but we'll need you to cover our escape route. Captain, that's suicide. You'll never survive the approach. I know, but if we don't do this, we all die anyway. At least this way we take them with us. On the display could see struggling with the decision. Finally, the collective admiral nodded. We'll do what we can. And Captain, thank you for coming, for helping, despite everything our ancestors did to yours. Thank you for making sure their deaths meant something, replied. He turned to his crew. All hands, this is the captain. We're going into the heart of the swarm. Load every weapon we have. I want continuous fire from now until we reach that relay. Engineering, give me everything the engines can handle. And if anyone wants to say a prayer to whatever they believe in, now's the time. Found himself standing next to. The young lieutenant looked scared but determined. Is this what it was like, he asked her, 300 years ago, when Earth fell? Probably, said. Except back then we didn't have anyone coming to help us. I'm sorry for what my people did, for what all of the collective did. I know, and maybe someday that'll be enough, but right now I just want to survive long enough to see my family again. The Indomitable accelerated toward the swarm's center. The other 5 human ships followed. Their weapons fired continuously, cutting a path through the biological vessels. The collective fleet attacked the swarm's flanks, trying to draw off as many ships as possible. It almost worked. They got within 1,000 kilometers of the relay before the swarm realized what was happening. Then every swarm ship in the system converged on them. The human ships vanished in a swarm of biological vessels, like swimmers drowning in a sea of teeth. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, an officer called out. Fire in engineering, losing power to forward weapons. Keep firing, ordered. We just need to get close enough for one good shot. The ship shook violently, alarms blared, people were shouting. And through it all stood calm at the center of the storm, guiding his ship toward its target. 500 kilometers counted down, 400, 300. Captain, the weapons officer said, I've got a firing solution, nuclear missiles, but at this range we'll be caught in the blast. Take the shot, said. Sorry. Take the shot, that's an order. The missiles launched. 6 nuclear warheads streaked toward the relay. The swarm tried to intercept them, but human missiles were too fast, too agile. They penetrated the final defenses and struck home. The explosion was like a new sun being born. It expanded outward, consuming swarm ships by the hundreds, and the Indomitable, too close to escape, was caught in the edge of the blast wave. Brace for impact, someone screamed. Grabbed onto a railing as the ship tumbled through space. Metal screamed. People flew through the air, and then finally the ship stabilized. Looked up dazed and bleeding. Half the bridge crew was down, was slumped in his chair unconscious, but they were alive. Somehow they were alive. And outside, the swarm was falling apart. Without the relay coordinating them, the swarm ships became confused. They flew in circles, crashed into each other, or simply drifted in space. The collective fleet and the remaining human ships destroyed them easily. Within an hour, the battle was over. Helped pull injured crew members to the medical bay. Worked alongside human medics, using her first aid training to save lives. Coordinated damage control teams, his engineering knowledge proving useful despite the alien technology. Captain regained consciousness 3 hours after the battle ended. He had a nasty concussion and several broken ribs, but he refused to stay in medical. "How many did we lose?" he asked as soon as he could speak. "The Indomitable survived," reported. "She had taken command while was unconscious. Major and half his Marines are dead. 23 other crew members killed, 47 injured. 2 of our escort ships were destroyed. The others are badly damaged but functional." And the collective? Admiral's flagship survived. So did about 30 other collective ships. The civilian population on the planets is safe. We saved maybe 8 billion lives today. Nodded slowly. At a cost of 2,000 human lives, was it worth it? "That's not for me to answer, sir." Before could respond, entered the bridge. "Captain, Admiral is requesting permission to come aboard. He wants to speak with you personally." "Grant permission, and find Commander, I want him there too." They met in a small conference room. Admiral was the same species as he was, old with gray skin and tired eyes. He bowed deeply when he saw, "Captain, I cannot begin to express my gratitude. You saved my world. You saved my people, and you did it despite what we did to yours." 300 years is a long time to hold a grudge, said, and the people who burned Earth are long dead. Their children's children's children are the ones we save today. Still, what you did seemed to struggle for words. It was heroic, selfless, everything we told ourselves humans were not. "We're not perfect," said. "We're angry, we're hurt. And yes, part of us wanted to watch you burn, but we're also human, and humans don't abandon people who need help, no matter what." Looked at, "Commander, I am told you were the one who found the old human station, who activated Atlas, who sent the signal that brought the humans back." "Yes, Admiral." "Then you may have saved civilization itself." Pulled out a data pad. "I have been authorized by the Collective Council to make an offer to humanity, full membership in the Collective, equal representation on the Council, recognition of all human territorial claims, and a formal apology for the attempted extermination of your species." "That's a start," said carefully, "but it's not enough." "What more do you want?" "Reparations. The Collective owes humanity a debt, technology transfers, resources to rebuild, help in relocating anyone who wants to return to Earth orbit, and most importantly, a complete declassification of all records from 300 years ago. The galaxy needs to know the truth about what happened." "The Council will never agree to that," said. "Revealing what we did, it would destabilize the entire Collective." "Then the Collective deserves to be destabilized," said flatly. "You built your peace on genocide and lies. That needs to end." Was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. "You're right, we do owe you the truth. I will present your demands to the Council, but I should tell you there is a larger problem. The relay you destroyed was just one of many. Our intelligence suggests the swarm's main hive is still out there, somewhere in dark space. They will come again, and next time they'll be ready for us." "We know," said. "Admiral is already planning a strike mission to find and destroy the hive mind, but we'll need more ships, more firepower. The Collective will provide whatever you need. We're in this together now." They were interrupted by an urgent communication from, "Captain, We're receiving a message from Admiral. The swarm found human space. Space went pale, and they fought them off. The human fleet destroyed the entire swarm attack force, but there were losses. The colony on New Terra took heavy damage, 3,000 civilians dead, 5 capital ships destroyed. Closed his eyes, could see the pain on his face. New Terra was where many human families lived, people had sworn to protect. Captain continued, Admiral is ordering all ships to return to human space immediately. She's planning the strike mission into swarm territory. She wants to end this before they can attack again. Tell her we're on our way. 3 days later, the combined human and collective fleets gathered at the edge of known space. Admiral's flagship, the Defiant, led an armada of 200 ships. Half were human vessels. Half were collective ships that had volunteered to join the mission. It was the first joint operation between humans and the collective in over 300 years. Stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching the fleet assemble, and were with him. They had been given the choice to return to collective space, but all 3 had chosen to stay, to see this through to the end. Do you think we'll survive? Asked. Probably not, admitted. This is a suicide mission. We're going into the heart of swarm space to destroy their hive mind. Even if we succeed, most of us won't make it back. Then why are we doing this? Because someone has to. And because for the first time in 300 years, humans and the collective are working together. Maybe that's worth dying for. Admiral's voice came over the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral. Today we take the fight to the enemy. Today we end the swarm's threat once and for all. Humans and collective fighting side by side. Our ancestors couldn't do this. They let fear and hatred divide them, but we are better than they were. We choose a different path. She paused. I won't lie to you. This mission is dangerous. Many of us will not return, but those who do will carry with them the knowledge that they saved the galaxy, that they proved that different species can work together, that they honored the memory of all those who died in the wars of the past by building something better for the future. All ships prepare for FTL jump. May whatever gods you believe in watch over us all. The fleet jumped, space twisted, and they were gone, heading into the darkness where the swarm waited. The journey took 2 days. When they arrived at the swarm's home system, they found it exactly as terrible as they'd feared. Millions of swarm ships filled the void, and at the center, a massive biological structure that pulsed with sickly green light, the hive mind. All ships ordered, attack formation. We punch through to the hive mind, plant the quantum bombs, and get out. Simple and direct. It was anything but simple. The moment they entered the system, the swarm swarmed them. Ships died by the dozens. Humans and collective alike fell before the endless waves, but they kept pushing forward, kept fighting, kept dying. The Indomitable was in the vanguard, alongside Admiral's Defiant. Ship was battered but still fighting. Major, replacement, captain, led boarding teams onto the hive structure itself, fighting through biological corridors to plant the bombs. Found himself manning a weapons station, firing at swarm ships alongside human crew members. Was in medical, treating the endless stream of wounded. Was in engineering, keeping the failing systems running through nothing but stubborn determination. And then they reached the hive mind's core. It was beautiful and terrible at once. A massive organic brain, pulsing with light and intelligence. Could feel it reaching into his mind, trying to understand him, trying to control him. Captain and his Marines planted the quantum bombs around the core, but the swarm was converging. Too fast. They wouldn't make it out in time. Defiant to all ships, Admiral's voice was calm. Bombs are planted, begin withdrawal. Admiral said, your ship is too damaged, you won't make the jump. I know, Captain, get the fleet out, that's an order. Admiral. Captain, you are a good man, lead humanity well, and remember that we didn't die for revenge. We died for the future. The Defiant stayed behind, along with 5 other ships too damaged to escape. They formed a final defensive line, buying time for the rest of the fleet to jump away. From the Indomitable's bridge, watched as the quantum bombs detonated. The hive mind exploded in a burst of light that seemed to tear reality itself. The Defiant and its companion ships vanished in the blast. And across the galaxy, every swarm ship suddenly went dark. Without the hive mind, they were just biological husks drifting in space. The war was over. The fleet returned to human space as heroes, but the victory felt hollow. They had lost Admiral along with 3,000 other crew members, human and collective together. The funeral was held in space near where Earth had once orbited, stood with and thousands of others watching as the bodies were sent into the sun. Human tradition explained, returning to the light. She saved us all, said. Yes, agreed. Human and collective alike. She proved that we're stronger together than apart. 3 months later, stood in the newly opened Unity Station, built jointly by humans and the collective in neutral space. He had been promoted to ambassador, tasked with helping rebuild the relationship between the two powers. Had joined the human fleet, the first non-human to serve in the Terran Defense Forces. Worked in the research labs, helping human and collective scientists share technology. Captain, now Admiral, commanded the combined fleet. Human ships flew alongside collective vessels, protecting a galaxy that was finally learning to work together. Do you think it will last? Asked. She had been promoted to commander and now served as second in command. I don't know, admitted. Humans and the collective have a lot of history to overcome, a lot of pain, but we're trying, and sometimes trying is enough. Through the station windows, he could see ships from a dozen different species docking, trading, sharing, building something new. The legends had returned, and they had proven that even the worst enemies could become allies, that even the deepest wounds could heal, that the future didn't have to repeat the past. Humans were no longer myths, they were family. And the galaxy was better for it.